Hey guys, welcome. Thanks so much for popping in tonight. Happy Thursday. I'm getting very excited because Monday we will be starting our Bunny Live Stitch Along. So here we are. That is the little bunny we will be stitching. We'll be working on this project starting Monday, April 3rd, and we will be going through probably the end of the week through Friday, April 7th, working on stitching the little bunny embroidery. So today, I see you guys popping in a little bit. I won't start right away. I'll let you guys come in yet. But one of the things that we really want to hold on. I'm just trying to get the live thing going. Okay, so I think it's working now. But what I really want to cover today, before we get started, is different ways that you can transfer your design to fabric. I know it's the biggest barrier to embroidery. I mean, let me know if you think differently, but man, I think transferring the design, it can be the big difference between, am I going to work on this project or not? Like if you look at a design and you really want to get stitching, but then you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to trace this whole thing, or I don't know what's going to work on this fabric. It can be just a huge barrier. So I want to kind of go through those a little bit today, different ways to transfer your design and what you would use for what fabric, just, some of the decision-making process along the way. So have your questions ready. I will go through this process. I'll show you a bunch of ways, and then you can ask some questions for that. So we're going to get started. If you're new here, my name is Alyssa Thomas from Penguin and Fish, where we make lovely and quirky hand embroidery patterns and kits. I am the author of Sew and Stitch Embroidery and a fabric designer, and I am getting all ready for the Bunny Live Stitch Along. Again, starting Monday. This is a nice, simple pattern. I know a lot of you have your kits already, so I will go over some of the transfer techniques that come with that. And some of you got PDF versions, the printable versions. I'll go over some ways that you can use your printed version as well. So that's the plan for today. Thanks again, guys, for coming in. Let's get going here. So I'm going to flip you around and we will get started. Okay, guys, so if you got one of my kits, one of the kits with the bunny in, it comes with both a trace me and an iron me pattern. So that's just a traceable pattern. This is the correct orientation, meaning it's the bunny in the right direction. The iron-on, if you get an iron-on transfer from a manufacturer, it's always going to be reversed. So if it has type on it, on your pattern that you get from a store, it may, the type will be reversed because we're actually going to flip it and then iron on the back, and that's what's going to give us, then it'll be going the correct direction. So I think if you have an iron-on transfer, it's one of the quickest and easiest ways to transfer a design to fabric. Now, you don't always have an iron-on transfer from the manufacturer, so you can't always do this. That's why we're going to go through some of the other things. But to start things off, I thought we'd go over how to transfer the iron-on transfer version to a piece of fabric. So I'm going to get my iron out right here. We'll zoom up here. So the first and very important thing you want to do is cut off any excess text, because this text will be printed in the same transferable ink, and you don't want to have that on there. So I'm just going to trim that off. And actually, I'm going to use this for a little test. You always want to err on the side of testing your fabric and your transfer. And that just goes with any embroidery transfer technique. You might want to give it a test beforehand to see if it works with your fabric. So one thing I want to mention is this is going to work great for a light colored woven quilting weight muslin or fabric. It's not going to work as well on like a felt or something squishy like that, but I will go over some techniques for that. So the first things we're going to do are things that work great for light colored fabrics that are a quilted, woven weight, muslin, or cotton fabric. So an iron-on transfer works great for that. So to transfer an iron-on transfer, I always like protecting my ironing board, especially when it's my nice new fancy blue iron. I like putting a paper towel down because sometimes the ink from the transfer can go through. Alrighty, so here's my fabric. I'm going to preheat the fabric. I'm not using steam. I don't want any wetness to come out, so it's a dry iron. Okay, so we've preheated this. So I'm going to now just lay the design in the center of my fabric here. And I'm going to hold one of these edges that doesn't have the ink on. And I'm going to just hold the iron for a few seconds. Then I'm going to scooch down here and hold it for a few seconds. And I'm going to just scooch back. I'm holding it the whole time. And you want to do about 5 to 10 seconds total. And you don't want to wiggle too much because it'll make your lines blurry. But okay, let's see that. So my hand is still holding it down. Let's just take a little peek. Oh, look, it looks like it's transferred. So I am going to lift the whole thing up. And there we go. Easy peasy. You are completely done transferring and ready to go. How hot is the iron? So the iron I have on the heat of what your fabric wants to do. So I have mine set on cotton right now just because this is a cotton fabric. So you don't want to do something that's too hot for your fabric or anything though, because you don't want to burn your fabric. So but with a quilting weight fabric or muslin or a linen of the high setting, the cotton linen is fine. So there is our iron-on transfer. And this is why I love the iron-on transfer. It is so fast. And the nice thing is that this transfer can be used quite a few times. So let's just do a little test here. Since we're here, let me just reheat some of my fabric a little bit. Let's just give it another try. We'll make a field of bunnies. We'll make like a little pattern of bunnies. How about that? That'd be kind of fun. We're doing some fabric design right now. We'll have that guy there. So again, counting to 5 about. I'm not wiggling, but then I'm going to move down here. And I'm just moving so I cover the different parts of the design. And I don't want my iron in one place too long because I don't want to scorch my fabric. All right, let's do a little peek. So it should get lighter and lighter every time we transfer it. So, all right, it looks good again. So this is the second iteration. Let's just see how many times we can get the transfer to work. So what I like about the iron-on transfer is this reason that you can use it a bunch of times. So you can use it more than once. You could try it on a few different guys. All right, this guy's gonna go off the edge a little bit, but that's okay. The embroidery transfer does not come out. It's basically semi-permanent. It may fade after a little. So that actually, Sally, is one of the reasons you may decide against using an iron-on transfer. I like it because it is super fast, it's easy peasy, you get it done and you can start stitching right away. However, if you're worried about the lines showing through when you're done, then you might want to trace the design, and I'll show you that next. All of our stitches will cover up the lines pretty well, so I don't worry about it too much. Let's take a peek. Oh, see, it's getting much duller now. Let's hit it with a little bit more heat for a little longer. All right, let's just go with that. See what we got. All right, see, now we're starting to fade. I should hold it on a little bit longer. I can, when I look up close, I can still see the lines a little bit, but we are getting down there. Let's just do it one more time just to test. Put this one right here. So it's nice. You can use it more than once. So like this would be great like if you were doing it for grandkids and you had more than one grandkid and you wanted to give them each a bunny. Or if you wanted to stitch a blue bunny and a pink bunny, you could use the iron-on transfer more than once. All right, let's see what we got here. I could probably stay on a little longer, but I'm just gonna move on. Oh, yep, see now we're starting to fade a little bit. So that time I was able to get 3 pretty good ones. But there you go. That is the iron-on transfer. It's still nice and light. I don't think your embroidery fabric or your thread's gonna cover it up pretty well. So, all right, guys, that is that. I think that's still the easiest way to do it. But if you got the kit or if you got a PDF pattern, there will also be a traceable pattern in there as well. And this is also nice to have in the kit because if you do use up your iron-on transfer, you always have the pattern. So even when you get done with your design, you'll always have a pattern saved. So that's really kind of important. You know, I don't want you to be able to stitch it once and then it's gone forever. You do have the pattern still. And so this is the PDF version. I just printed it out. So here again, I got blue ink all over it. But so if you got the PDF version and printed it out, then you can trace it. It's the same size. So to trace it, tracing an embroidery design is still, I think, the easiest, most basic way to start. Like if you've never done any embroidery before, you don't have a bunch of special supplies, even if you don't have an iron to do the iron-on, or if you didn't get the iron-on, you just got the PDF version, this is still the easiest way to go. So what you would do is you would tape this to a window and tape your fabric on top and just trace through. So now I don't have a window right here, but I do have my little light table. So we'll go over this. And light tables are actually now pretty readily available at craft stores. I'm going to use this one just to show it a little smaller. So you can use a light table. However, like I said, if you don't have any supplies whatsoever, tape it to a bright, sunny window. I always use this that blue painter's tape. So I just put a jobby up on top. So pretend I'm on a window here. And on the bottom here. And then I'll do the same thing with my fabric. So here's my fabric. This fabric, I can actually see the bunny pretty well through it. But I'm going to just tape this down as well. So again, taping your fabric to the window. You might want to tape all 4 sides down. I'm just going to tape the one for now. But you know what, I'm going to tape the bottom piece too. So this, you'll want to tape it anyway because you don't want it to move around while you trace it. All right, so I'm going to turn it on. I probably could trace this one through, but up against the window, it'll be just much easier. So if you don't have any supplies, you can still start embroidering. All you need, you can trace it with even just a normal pencil. So you can just go right over the lines with the pencil. And again, the pencil will kind of rub off a little bit, and if it's sharp enough, you can, you'll stitch over it so you won't be able to see it. So that's with the pencil. Let's just take a peek what it looks like. Yeah, see, there you go. There's with the pencil. Perfectly legitimate. With a nice simple design like this, it won't take forever to transfer. And again, cheapest, easiest way, tape it on a window, trace it with a pencil. What I like using is a water erasable fabric marking pen. And it's the same concept. You're tracing through your fabric. And because you have the fabric taped down, it's not moving around very much, which is nice. You know, you don't want to draw a bunny ear up here, and then by the time you get down here, it's shifted a lot. So taping it down is definitely nice to do. All right, so then you just keep going, tracing the entire thing. And there you go. And you'll stitch right over that. The nicest thing about the water erasable marking pen, like this is one of my favorite tools. I would recommend getting one of these. I got the thin tipped one, so I can get nice thin lines. But the best part about the water erasable fabric marking pen is that it is water erasable. So when I'm done with the whole embroidery, I will just take a wet rag and dab off the lines, and then I won't have any residue whatsoever. So I won't have any pencil lines. I won't have any iron-on lines. It will be just, I won't have, with the iron-on transfer, like these lines will be here for a while. They'll fade a little, but they will be on your fabric. With the water erasable marking pen, it won't show at all. It'll completely go away. So that's what you have to weigh. Do I want to be super fast, which would be just doing it with the iron-on transfer, or do I want to take a little more time, trace it, and be able to wash it away? So the other thing with an iron-on transfer is that it's the exact design. Like this is the exact lines from the design, whereas this, you're drawing over it, so it's dependent on how well you trace it. It's not the exact lines. So this is, you know what, I'm not sure what brand, but any brand will work. Sometimes they're erasable marking, fabric marking pens. Sometimes they're like called wash away markers, but they're all over at craft stores. So especially even if you have a Joann's, for sure they will have some version of this. When I'm done with this, I will make a list of all the products and I will put them on this post, Pam. So I think that'll help a little bit. I'll find out what the brand of this is. But all right, so that is the tracing method. So those are the two most basic methods. I'm going to just take this off now. So when you're done, you just remove your tape. Thin would be the best, I think, Pam, at least, because then it will fully cover, my stitches will fully cover it. And I don't know about you, but I like, when I'm stitching, I don't want to see my lines while I'm stitching, so the thinner, the better, I think. So yeah, so here's it up close. That's, this is just with pencil. Again, pencil, completely legitimate. Feel free to use pencil. And then this is the water-soluble marking pen, what that looks like. And then you would just put this in your hoop and get stitching. So if you guys have been with me before, you know I like this product. The next product I'm going to show you, it's called Sticky Fabrisolvi, and it's an embroidery stabilizer. And the reason I like it is because it kind of combines the two worlds of a traceable pattern with the water-soluble marker and an iron-on transfer, in that you can just print out on the embroidery stabilizer, so you get the perfect lines. It's super fast. You just print it and it's done, and it washes away. So you have no leftover marks like you would with an iron-on transfer or pencil lines or something like that. So this is what I'm talking about. It's called Sticky Fabrisolvi. It's by Selkie. There's actually, this is the Pellon version. Pellon has the stick and wash away. This works fine as well. So with that, so here's an example. I printed out my design. This is from the PDF pattern. I printed the design directly to it, so you can run it through inkjet or a laser printer. And I even enlarged this 150%. So that's a really fun part. You can just shrink or enlarge your design to whatever you want before you print it. So for this, you can just cut it out, you print it. You can print it or photocopy it, really. Oh wow, this scissors is so dull. Here, we're going to switch scissors. I like using a paper scissors to cut this out because it does have a paper backing. But that scissors didn't work well. Alrighty, so I always leave like a little edge around, and then you can just, oh here, I was going to put it on a cute little decorative fabric. So sticky Fabricelli works great for fabrics that are a little more difficult to stitch through, and to trace through, and I'll show you some of those in a sec here, but let me just show you how this goes on. So it has a fabric backing. Oh, no problem, Renee, we're just getting going. And this will, you guys, this will go on YouTube afterwards, and it will stay here on the Bunny Live Stitch Along page. So here we go. It's got the paper backing, and then the front comes off like a sticker, and this side is sticky. So we don't need the paper backing. But then you can just stick it right on, we'll go right here, right on your fabric. Just like that. And then you would stitch right through it. So here's here's a design. So it's great when you have a more intricate design like this. Like this would take me a long time to trace, right? Like this would take me, you know, probably a good 40 minutes to trace. With the sticky Fabricelli, I just print it out. It's straight from the printer, and I just stick it on right like that. So it's super easy. And when you're done, it washes away in water. So I won't show you guys that now, but when we're done with the bunny stitch along, I'll show you how it kind of washes away. But yeah, so this is just stuck on there like that. It stays pretty well while you stitch through it. So, you know, when you look close, you're actually looking at the surface of the Fabricelli. You're not seeing the actual fabric, you're seeing the Fabricelli. So a reason you may not want to use this is, first of all, price. I mean, each sheet costs about $1 or so, so you really want to, you know, use it wisely. I always save every single piece. So here are all my kind of saved pieces. The nice thing that you can do, like let's just take a piece here. Fabricelli is great if you want to like write someone's name or something. So let's just say, I'm going to scooch this up. I want to write a name on here. So let's just do Jen or something, right? So I can write it out, or I can just test a few ways of, test a few fonts, right? You know, something like that. Okay, so maybe I like that. So I can draw on a separate piece of paper, and then you can trace, you can use this, you don't need to have it through a printer. You can actually trace right to it. Use that E and the N. All right, so this is great, like if you wanted to trace someone's signature or something like that. You know, or like if you wanted to trace your kid's name, like if your kid wrote or your grandkid wrote their name out, you could trace it, and then again you can just stick it. It allows you to kind of practice before placing it, right? So we'll just take that and Maybe we want it right under the flowers like that. So you can even overlap several layers of Fabricelli if you want. There, that's pretty cute. How about right like that? So there you go. So the Fabricelli is pretty flexible because you can trace through it. You can run it through your printer, fast and easy. Like I said, this takes a second to print out. It would have taken me 40 minutes or so to trace, and this will all wash away when we're done, so I won't have any markings underneath. So that is why I like the sticky Fabricelli. All right, so I'm going to just move on a little bit, guys. So sometimes you might come along a fabric where you can't trace through it and you can't iron onto it. So for example, what do you do if you want to stitch onto a dark piece of fabric, right? So I'll show you how we can do that. So this is a dark piece of woven fabric. So it's still thin, it's not squishy at all. A woven, just like a quilting weight fabric. This is actually an old shirt fabric. So then you can bring in some transfer paper. This is, it's like carbon paper or graphite paper. You can also get, it's the same thing as a dressmaker's tracing paper. So what it is a paper that comes in a few colors, usually. This is my favorite. It's by Serral, the transfer paper. It comes in a whole pile of colors. So I'm going to just pull it out. And you can reuse this over and over again. You'll see I have a pile of designs. I'm going to use the white, like I've used. I got a little cow. Oh, that's cute. A little cow and a barn in there. So I'm going to use a light color. I wonder if the yellow, I can use the yellow too on this purple. Oh, like some little veggies. All right, let's use the yellow. Actually, let's use the white. So you can pick what would show up best on your fabric. So like I said, this would be just pretty impossible to trace through, right? I mean, you definitely can't see the bunny through that, and I doubt even with the light table you'd get to see it. It also works on fabrics that have a lot of pattern, like something with a big floral might be really difficult to see. So that's when this carbon paper, transfer paper, or graphite paper, again, here it is, if you want to take a look at it. This, I believe, you can get at a fabric store as well. A lot of times it's in the art area, because you can use this to transfer designs to like wood or canvas and that sort of stuff too. So what we're going to do is you put your fabric on a hard surface, right? So I'm on the table here. Then you put your carbon paper on top. Then you put your design on top of that. So this is not the reversed one. This is the bunny in the correct direction. So let's just kind of place the bunny in the middle. All right, that looks pretty good. And then you want a blunt object. What I like using is a dull pencil, or in this case, it's a mechanical pencil where I don't have any of the lead in. You could use like a tiny a tiny crochet hook. That would work well, but you want a blunt point and a little point. So then I'm just going to push down. So, okay, yeah, first of all, one side will be a little waxy and one side will feel more papery. You want the waxy side down because that's the side with the transfer material on. So, all right, then you're just going to trace over. You're going to put some pressure and you're going to push on every line. So it's kind of like you're tracing it, but you're just going over lines. Oh, hey, Anne-Marie. I'm glad you were able to make it live. All right. So I'm going to go around the head. You can also use a ballpoint pen. What you don't want to use is something sharp that will cut through your paper here. We'll put the other ear on. We'll make his head. If you use a ballpoint pen, then you can kind of see where you went already. But again, you don't want it to poke through. So let's just finish his little face. Again, this is a super duper great option if you are using dark fabric, that tracing just won't work. So let's give it a check. I'm going to just hold this down. You could tape all this down too so everything doesn't move. Oh, look at that. Oh, it's so fun. So see, perfectly easy peasy. We would just go through the rest of the thing. I might finish him. I don't know if I can actually place him in the same spot, but it's cute, just kind of the head. It'd be fun to stitch on a dark color like this. So that's totally an option. You might want to make like a daytime bunny and a nighttime bunny or something. But here we go. So this is actually really great because when you're done, it sort of wipes off. Like you can, with a little water, sometimes it comes off, or you can take, even like a little piece of paper like this and it'll rub off eventually. So this is pretty temporary as well. I know, now you want to try dark fabric because, dang, isn't that cute on that purple? Man, I think I need to finish this one on the purple. He's pretty cute. You know what I kind of want to make? I'm just brainstorming now. I think I want to finish putting the bunny on and then cut it really close and make like a little brooch or something out of him. I think that'd be kind of fun. Cut him out and put like a little pin on the back. Anyway, so that's what you would use if you are stitching on dark fabric. However, your sticky Fabricelvi would work perfectly well too. So that's pretty cute, just the head and Jen. So there we go. So now here's a good example on a reason you might not want to use the Fabricelvi, just because of the color. Like, look, so while I'm stitching this guy, I will be able to see exactly what my stitches look like on this dark colored fabric. With the Fabricelvi, I'm not going to really know what my colors look like until I take the Fabricelvi off. So that would be a reason to not use the Fabricelvi in this case. I would maybe just want to use the transfer, the wax or the transfer tracing paper. So, but anyway, there we go. That is cute. I kind of like with the little name there. But anyway, so there is the wax transfer paper, and it's actually called a lot of things. Sometimes it's called graphite paper. Graphite paper is usually actual graphite that's, like the pencil lines, kind of like this. It has a sheet in here, the gray. I love the light colors. I use the light colors a lot because they go, like on these dark colors. So sometimes it's wax-free transfer paper. Again, dressmaker's carbon. Here, let me keep all my sheets together. Dressmaker's carbon is pretty available. This is used for when clothing people make their patterns. This comes in a pile of different colors too. Same exact thing. You put the colorful side down, because that's the side with the material on, and then you trace through. Same exact deal. So dressmaker's carbon paper. Anything that says kind of carbon paper on it will work. Again, I personally really like this Serral brand. Okay, so that's what you do if you have a dark fabric like that. So, all right, here are some other scenarios you might want to consider. What do you do with a felt? Embroidery is so pretty on felt, and it's squishy. So the problem is you cannot use the graphite or the graphite, the transfer paper. Oh my gosh, I'm totally forgetting it. The transfer paper, the dressmaker's carbon paper. That's the word I'm trying to think of. The carbon paper. Because it only works if you can put a hard pressure on a point, right? So with a felt, you can't ever get that hard pressure. It's too squishy. So in this case, I might use an embroidery stabilizer of some sort. Oh, well, Grace, this will be on YouTube afterwards too. But it looks like you're on now. So an embroidery stabilizer would be great for this. Again, I can just stick my sticker right on like that. Another type of stabilizer I might want to use. So why I might not want to use the sticky Fabricelvi for a felt, because I might not want to get this wet again. Like I might not want to get the felt wet when I'm done. Another version you can use is iron-on tear-away stabilizer. So, all right, just for a moment, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about stabilizers, because when you walk down the aisle that has all these crazy stabilizers, you know, you're going to see an aisle with all of this stuff in. It can be pretty overwhelming. There's two things that you want to be looking for. How does it go on? How does it come off? So when you're looking through all the language, look, how does it go on? How does it go off? Stick and wash away. It's pressure sensitive. You know, it looks like it sticks on. Water soluble, so washes away. You know, here it says wash away. You can actually sew it in as well. You could like stitch it on, but this also sticks on. So pressure sensitive, water soluble. This one is different. This one's iron on, tear away. So sometimes it'll say iron on and permanent. You won't be able to tear that away. Or it could be iron on, wash away, or you know, it could be really any combination of the two. So it's how do you want it to go on, how do you want it to come off. Another reason actually that you would not want to use the water soluble, the sticky, the stick and wash away, or the sticky Fabricelvi, is this might be a really nice fabric that you don't want any wetness on, right? So I'm going to have to wash this away when I'm done. I'm going to have to run it underwater. I might not want that. It might be a fabric that shrinks a ton, like if it's a silk or something, I might not want to get it wet. If it's like a felt, maybe I don't want to get it wet. So another option in that case would be a tear-away stabilizer. So this, you can iron on. So this one I happen to have comes in like a big sheet. So I'm just going to cut off a little piece. There it is hiding. Let's see. I'm just going to... Where did my scissors go? There it is. All right. So again, we're getting into kind of more intense ways to transfer your design. If you watch the beginning of this video, again, easiest way, iron on, transfer, or trace. But again, you can't trace through this. You can't trace through this. I don't have an iron on transfer, so, you know, and I don't think an iron on would work very well here, so we got to deal with different things. So I got a piece of my iron on tear-away stabilizer, and again, you're going to have to trace your design onto it. So there's a waxy side, that's the iron side, and then there's kind of a rougher side. That side you can draw on. So let's just do like the little head again. So just with a pencil, you can quickly draw the shapes in. Again, not a poor idea to tape this down before you go. All right, so there we go. That was so funny. They make me laugh. All right, let's go back to the iron. So you can place it. You can place it on your fabric. Again, this is a squishy fabric. I can't use the carbon paper because it's too squishy, and it's a little. You can't trace through it. You got yours and tape it, and run it through the printer. So I would be a little wary running the iron-on tear-away stabilizer through the printer. Unless you have an inkjet printer, that would actually work great. Yeah, you could cut a piece of this to the 8.5 by 11 and tape it to a normal piece of paper and run it through your inkjet printer. That probably would work. However, I would not run it through a laser printer because it would get too warm. Gina, I am not a huge fan of the transfer pencils. You're gonna have to draw over the design anyway, so at that point, I would just trace the design or use 1 one of these embroidery stabilizer methods. I don't find they work all that well, and the lines get really thick. But I do have a pen here. We could give it a try. All right, so then I'm going to just press this down. So again, we're using a dry iron. We'll see how this works. The stabilizer is pretty old, so it might not stick very well. Oh, there, now it's starting to go. You know, another version of this, instead of iron on, there's a sew in tearaway. So you could actually, it doesn't have any way to get it on except for basting it on. So big stitches, you just take big stitches with some sewing thread and stitch it to your design. And that's perfect if you have a fabric that you don't want to get wet and you don't want to iron. Just sewing it in would be good. But there we go. It is ironed on there. And so we can stitch. We'll do our stitching right through there, and then it just peels off and you can tear it away and it'll leave your stitches. So this gets a little futzy because you do have to tear around every single stitch. That might take a little while, but you know, it works. You know, as you get to different design or different fabrics, then you really do have to consider what's the best way for the fabric. And that might be the best way. So another fabric, let me just show you guys another example that I used the iron-on tearaway stabilizer. I used that to do my fox. So this guy is from my book. It's a fox table runner, but it's on burlap. So burlap, I don't want to get wet. I don't want to wash it when I'm done. And I can't really trace on it. It's too kind of thick and textured to trace on. So this, I traced the design onto the iron-on tearaway. And then when I was done stitching, I could tear out all the little pieces. So, you know, again, totally considering the fabric. That's basically where all my decision-making starts with transferring a design is what fabric it's on. So, all right, another fabric where you might want to use an embroidery stabilizer is a knit. So again, we got this little newt here. And the reason is you can probably trace through this maybe, but sometimes it's a little difficult because it is stretchy and it is squishy. Sometimes these squishy fabrics are hard to trace through. So I will always use a stabilizer with it because when I'm stitching, I will want that extra you know, non-stretchiness. Like this isn't going to stretch. So if I trace it and I put this down first, it's not going to stretch when I stitch. Whereas if I would use it without, it would stretch all over. So definitely if you're going on a t-shirt fabric, which I would not recommend for the beginner, it's a little difficult to pull your needle through t-shirt fabric, and it is very stretchy, but you will want to use some sort of stabilizer. The sticky Fabricelli would work great for that, the wash away kind, so would the tear away kind. You'll want to use something though for a t-shirt fabric. All right, so a couple other things I wanted to chat with you guys about. I know some of you have tried these friction pencils before, or friction pens. In theory, they're amazing, but in practice, it's just kind of a question mark. So here's why they're so great. Let's just take this design. I can kind of see through it, so I'm going to we'll just match up this guy's head here. So this is by Pilot. They're friction pens. They go away with heat. And I'll show you what that means, but there's some controversy over them, so it's kind of like use at your own risk, and I'll kind of show you why. So let's kind of finish this guy's head. It goes on so smoothly, just like you had a ballpoint pen and you were doing it, which is kind of wonderful. It really goes on nice, so that's why it's like, oh wow, these are the greatest things ever. Let's just make sure we get that in there. All right, so there we go. I just kind of finished the head off. So look how great that is, right? So in theory, super nice. I can easily see that, easily stitch over it. It goes on really easily onto the fabric. Let's give it a little press. Now here's kind of the magic of it, and then I'll show you why it's kind of a question mark. So let's say I've stitched this whole thing. I have all my stitches on top of here, and I can kind of see the lines a little bit, and I want those to go away. Just give it some heat, and it completely disappears. So that's kind of amazing, right? So here's kind of the problem. I don't know if you're going to be able to see very well, but if you look up close, you can kind of see just barely the line never really goes away. It actually, let's see if I can recreate it. It actually fills in the gaps in the, oh yeah, here I can see. It fills in the gaps of the fabric, and it never really goes away. So it can leave a white residue on your fabric. And it can actually discolor some of your fabric. So actually, this is looking pretty good. So, you know, in the end, it's kind of up to you. But if you look really close, you can see it start to fill in your fabric. And if you put this in the cold again, so like, you know, if you were doing a bunch of stitching on a quilt that, you know, you were going to bring camping or something, here we can kind of see it. This is kind of where it's filled in. It will come back. So if it's really cold, the lines will come back. But the big reason, you know, that's not the end of the world. Like, you know, this is just a cute little bunny design. I mean, you might not have it forever and ever, like some archival piece that you want to use forever, some heirloom piece. But this hasn't been tested for fabric. It hasn't been tested to see if it breaks down the fabric over time versus a water-soluble marking pen that's for the industry that, you know, it will come out completely, whereas this has not been tested for fabric. So it's kind of a use at your own risk. It is kind of fun. It is kind of magical. I did recommend it in my book when the pens first came out because they are so cool. It just went away. But I'm just kind of in that question mark stage with it. So this is what, you know, you might have heard of this or might have wanted to try it out before. Again, works really cool, but, you know, it fills in your area a little bit, and, you know, I don't know how archival it is. So anyway, that is what we got going on for transferring. I hope that helped a little bit. I mean, I'd love to hear your questions if you still have questions on some of it. Again, I think, you know, easiest way, you can just trace it with a pencil. You're going to be golden. You don't have to worry about all the crazy different ways to transfer a design. But it really is based on what fabric and then go from there. That's, you know, like I said, like with this, our fabric determined that, oh, maybe we use the carbon paper or we use an embroidery stabilizer. So the carbon paper is nice because you can use it again and again and again, and it's pretty cheap. You know, I'll be able to see all my colors on this dark versus this. However, this will come off in water, and it's, you know, a really fun product. I can just print right onto it. I don't have to trace. So that's kind of the deal, guys. Oh, good. I'm glad you learned some stuff. I will get this. I'm going to flip you guys around, and we'll kind of wrap this up. But yeah, so if you wanted to get your bunny all transferred before we start on Monday, you are welcome to. I will be transferring mine while we do it on Monday, and I might even transfer it both ways. I might do the iron-on transfer, and I think I'm going to trace it as well. Yeah, so the sticky Fabri-Selvi, that's here, and I did a big bunny onto this fabric here. Really fun to stitch a big bunny. Look how cute that is big. So this I enlarged a little bit. on the printer before I printed it, which is kind of the benefit of a PDF pattern. You can make it whatever size you like. We will go over the how to take the sticky Fabricelli off once we're done with the stitch along. I think I'll stitch two. I'll have one available for the Fabricelli. I'm going to use the one with the iron-on transfer, but I may on Monday do both transfer techniques. I'll trace a design. Oh, then the Fabricelli, I wouldn't be using the Fabricelli. I'll have a different example with the Fabricelli. It's kind of a neat product though. Oh, thanks you guys. I appreciate it. And again, this will stay on in the group page here, so you can refer to it on the Penguin and Fish Bunny Live Stitch Along. If you're doing a search on Facebook, it will be there, and it will also go up onto YouTube at Penguin and Fish Movies. And please ask any questions if there's something that we didn't cover, or if you're still confused, you don't know what to use with your fabric. Let me know, and just put it in the comments below here, and we'll figure it out. And I'll give this an update over the weekend probably with some of the products that I showed you guys today, with some links if you wanted to look further into like the carbon paper or something like that. But I really want to make a purple bunny now. So, all right, guys, Monday we start. It'll be the same time as this. It'll be at that 7 p.m. Central Time. That's 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. So that's kind of just to give you guys a reference. They will all stay on the interwebs forever, so they will stay on this Penguin and Fish Bunny Live Stitch Along page, and it will be on the YouTube page. Do we need to center the design on the fabric? If you plan on making, hold on guys, if you plan on making it into the kit, the wall art kit with the hoop around it, you will most likely want to center your design. I like putting it in a place where I can comfortably put my embroidery hoop around it. So like, here's an example. It's far enough. Oh gosh, it's cute with just the head. I might just have to stitch a little head. But if I would have put it a little further to the edge, I wouldn't have been able to put the hoop around it. So you want to give yourself enough room that it's sort of centered within the hoop while you stitch it. Because if you're stitching too close to the hoop, it kind of gets in the way. So yeah, so you do want to keep that in mind where you place it on your fabric. It does not have to be centered, but just give yourself enough room to put it in the hoop. And again, you'll want to center it if you are doing one of these wall art kits, if you're planning on framing it in the hoop like this is, because then you'll have enough fabric around the edge. So, all right, we'll go over this transferring technique in a shorter amount of time on Monday. So if you didn't transfer your design yet, I will be doing mine in real time. I will probably do an iron-on transfer, and I'll trace it potentially. I think it'll go pretty quick to trace. So I'll do that as well if you haven't done that. So that'll give you time while I'm doing that to transfer it while I'm live. Otherwise, if you're nervous about that, oh, Susan, that's funny. If you're nervous about doing it live with me and you want to make sure that it's ready to stitch, because we will probably start stitching on Monday as well, then you might want to transfer the design. And you can use this video as a reference for that. And again, ask any question you want below and we will get her figured out. So awesome! Thanks so much for coming in, guys. I'm really super duper excited for Monday. I think we're going to have so much fun. It's going to be just neat to stitch this little guy up. And I hope if you're just starting out with embroidery that you're starting to feel a little more comfortable with the process. And I will be there stitching at the same time as you on Monday. So feel free to ask, if something I'm doing looks funny and you don't know what I'm doing, just ask. Or if you're stuck on a spot, we're live, so you can ask in the comments here. So, all right, guys, now I'll head out, and remember, I will be here later again at the 9:30 p.m. Central for the normal Penguin and Fish live-ness. So, all right, thanks again, guys. I will catch you later.